All right, gang. We are recording. Let me make this large. There we go. Okay, so tactic number 9, creating urgency to buy. This is obviously going to be really important for all of us because it's a buyer's market. So one of the pitfalls of the market changing in this way is you're going to start to see people who get really hesitant because they keep thinking they're going to be able to predict the market. And so you're going to hear things like, I think prices are going to fall more. I'm going to wait. They want to find like the bottom price and the best possible deal. And no one has a crystal ball. No one ever knows that the market had hit bottom until after it's hit, right? How do we know? Because we start to see things go back up. And then in retrospect, we then look at that and say, oh, that was the bottom. So there's no way for anybody to actually know they're at the bottom when they're at the bottom. Just like nobody actually knows when they're at the top until we start to see the prices fall. And then we look back at that and say, oh, that was the top. So because this is the way like the human brain works, one of the things that we're going to need to do, or really it's a skill that gets developed in a buyer's market, is creating urgency to buy. So in a buyer's market, when is the right time to buy? Now, when you're able to. That's when. So here are the main ideas for this tactic. First, we're going to talk about the perspective on creating urgency. Then we're going to talk about, which has been a thread through the entire series, being the expert, and then creating a best buy list, doing your homework, finding it for them. We're going to talk about that. That's really sifting. You're going to need to be an active participant in the sifting through all the options, and then facilitate decision making. And then, we're going to finish up with the bottom line. So creating urgency, here's kind of the perspective where you want to start, is that we are going to have to compete with the newspapers, the news, and most of the time, those articles or those reports are taking a snippet of actual data, and then they're making a bunch of inferences about that, and people assume that that's the truth, even though oftentimes it's not someone who has the level of expertise that we have that is creating those assumptions. So you are going to have to compete with whatever was just in the LA Times or the New York Times or on the news at 8 the night before, when you have conversations with your buyers. Now, how are you going to do that? Well, you want to make sure that you're up to date on what those articles are saying. And oftentimes there's going to be a snippet or a statistic in there that actually is going to be your ally in proving your point about the market. So you want to look at those reports, look at those articles, and then pull out the gold and combine that with your expertise, which we're going to talk more about that as you have conversations with your people. But you can't ignore the fact that oftentimes what we're saying is not going to be echoed in the news media. And then the biggest thing is buyers fear paying too much. They always think, well, Juan, Sahara, if I buy right now, 2 months from now, am I going to see that I left money on the table? Well, maybe, but no one actually knows. And what you want to make sure they understand is the implications of some of the other factors that come into play when we get towards the bottom of the market. Those things include higher interest rates or tightened lending standards. So there might be somebody who's saying to Anita, I really like this house. It's the perfect house, but I feel like in a month, I'm going to be able to find another house like this for 10% less. Well, that may be true, but once the prices hit that point, that client may no longer qualify. So you want to be able to have these conversations intelligently with your people, and it all goes into creating a sense of urgency. And then oftentimes in a buyer's market, here's what's really funny, and I wanted to actually read this directly out of the quote. So let me find it. Okay, so the great irony of a buyer's market is that even though the opportunity to buy is high, buyer urgency tends to hit an all-time low. The media becomes the excited purveyor of negative news and uninformed advice, and buyers buy it all. Actually, it feels like that's the only thing they're buying. The reluctance is ironic since not so long ago, buyers were incredibly excited about buying, and it was a seller's market. Prices were escalating, and it was perhaps one of the most difficult times to buy value, and yet people were buying like there was no tomorrow. Buyers were afraid of, losing out by not buying, even though all the advantage was to the seller. Now a shift has occurred and it's a true buyer's market, and what happens? Fear is still in the driver's seat, but the tables have turned. The fear of paying too much seems to stop most in their track and immobilizes them. So I just think that that is the perfect place to stand in that aspect of the conversation. It's really funny, right? When prices are higher than ever, you look and people are, putting in offers well over ask. You're competing against 10 to 12 people, and then the market shifts and all of a sudden prices are falling, and it's harder and harder to get those same people to commit and buy. So that's why we as agents have to create that urgency, and we're going to use our skill, knowledge, and expertise to do that. And then you also have to believe it. A lot of times agents think it's not a good time to buy, and that's why they're not masterful or skillful in having these conversations effectively.
Hey, Nicole.
Yeah.
I've always used the fact that, yeah, you probably can get a better price, but what are the interest rates going to do? So,
Exactly.
yeah, you might get a better price, but if the interest rate goes up, it's still a wash, maybe a loss to you. So,
right. I mean, there's this, if you actually do the math on it, generally speaking on a home, if you have a 10% decrease in the price, but a 1% increase on that interest rate, it's a massive difference in what they're going to pay monthly. So that's always going to be the thing that trumps all. And that's something that I encourage all of you to use to your advantage in these conversations with your buyers. Like, okay, I got it, but I know you think in 6 months or 3 months or 2 months, we're going to see this same home or this same caliber home for 10 or 15% less, but interest rates are an all-time low, and that can't be replicated, or we don't know that it's going to be replicated in the future. And the difference in that price versus the difference in the interest rate impacts your bottom line and your monthly payment significantly. So now's the time to take advantage of these historic low interest rates. And then you want to remind them, that no one can really time the market. The only time you're going to know that you were at the bottom is when you're too late and we're going back up. So if you have the opportunity, the home's the one you want, it's in good condition, it's fairly priced, you're approved for the loan at a stellar interest rate, pull the trigger and do it. And you want to, and we'll talk about what the flip side is with your sellers as well.
Wow, what you just said, I'm sorry, this is Anita.
Hi,
What
Anita.
you just said, hi, what you just said, I never thought about. This is like an aha moment for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Good. Well, we've got to thank Gary Keller. I'm just kind of the mouthpiece, but these are his ideas. But this is just another kind of feather in the cap of you being a smart agent and being with KW, especially KW Inglewood, because I think we're the best. But these are the things that 42 years of experience and studying has shown him and others. And we're going to take it on as a market center as we move into this next shifted market. So, and I'm really glad that you kind of highlighted that, because that's going to be one of the most important kind of scripts for all of you in this particular time. So the other thing is you need to be an expert on the market and the economy so that you can speak intelligently about these factors that really illustrate the fact that it's a buyer's market and now is a good time to buy. So you want to make sure that you understand those different metrics or measures and that you can explain them to your client. And then you also really want to listen to your buyers. This is going to be where we're going to go back to like tactics 1 and 2. It's incredibly important at this time that you spend your time on the buyers who are ready, willing, and able. And so when we say ready, willing, and able, we're speaking to motivation. So you want to know what that motivation is, what their timetable is. And then you want to make sure that they're able, because you can't spend a ton of time on somebody that isn't pre-approved or doesn't have anything for the down payment if we go into a period where it's really challenging or almost impossible to get a deal done with nothing down, which often happens in times like these. So you've got to be diligent about listening to your buyers and asking the right questions. And then you want to pay attention to pricing and condition. So, you know, once we start to see the inventory hike, you want to sift through that and find the houses that are well priced and in good condition. And then you want to match needs and wants as far as location and school district and, you know, stats, beds, baths, square footage, things like that. And you want to really know those things so that you can keep your people on track, because once there's so many options, people start to get sideways, and then the next thing you know, they've changed which area they want 3 different times because of the price. So when you understand what these needs and wants are, it helps you keep them on track. Kind of like putting a kid in a candy store, or like if you've ever taken like a 3-year-old Toys R Us, I mean, they just run from aisle to aisle like they don't even know what they want anymore. That's what happens to a buyer in a buyer's market when there's, you know, so many houses, 20, 30 to choose from. You know, we want to make sure that we're keeping them on track, and because if we don't, it takes a long time. They just get distracted. And then you want to lessen their fears about buying. That's really by you know, creating that trust, which goes back to making sure that they experience you as an expert. And then you want to find good, reliable mortgage programs, financing partners, Tom Corcoran or whoever you want to use that can help you get this stuff done. So you want to invest in time and research when we talk about being the expert. You know, these are going to be the 5 things that anybody in a shifting market needs to do to maintain their market share. Even if you're really smart about it, you can capture your unfair share, which is really our goal. So there's going to do your lead gen, your lead follow-up, and then appointments with prospects, negotiating contracts, and then market research. This should be part of what you guys do every single day, because as we move into the shifting market, things are going to be really, really fluid, and you're going to want to be using the most up-to-the-minute data, right? Like previously, we would look at almost 6 months. Sometimes you would even go out 8, 9, 12 months to understand the comps. But as the prices fall and the market shifts, you're really going to want to look at like the trailing past 1 or 2 to inform your conversations with sellers and buyers. And market research is the way to do that, using the MLS. And then, like we said, you know, being up to date on the news and like recent publications with regards to real estate in the market. So we talked about this last week, where, you know, this is the direction that we go. So I'm going to skip ahead. This is where we are in a seller's market, right? You can have something that's, you know, somewhat overpriced, not in the best condition, and there are still buyers for it. You know, plenty of people who are willing to compete. And then we just have in that out of the market a little sliver of like the crazy prices, you know, the things that are in unbelievably bad condition and not priced accordingly. But if you look at that, that's a small, you know, piece of the pie that isn't really sellable. What we're headed into is this, where what you want to make sure you're doing is showing your clients those homes that are in that balance point of great condition and well priced. And then everything outside of that is really just, you're going to want to discourage them from going to look at those or see those. You know, sometimes people will look at that and say, oh, no, let's spend time on it and see if we can get that guy to come down. When the inventory is high, it's really not worth wasting your time on that. I'm sure there are people who are successful, but what you want to do is volume. And so spinning your wheels, trying to get people to accept offers that are well below ask when there's so much inventory and probably something in decent condition that's well priced that you could get that buyer, that's really where you want to focus your time, energy, and effort. So this is, you know, where it gets even smaller, that little piece of the pie, right? From here to here. And you want to look at that. You also might start to see a little more competition once we get to this point, because there's going to be so much that's outside and so little that's in the market or that makes sense at that point in time. And this is often what people are waiting for, and they don't realize that this is really where you want to be when you buy. So here are some of the reasons you want to discuss with your clients when you talk to them about why it's a good time to buy now. Obviously, we talked about mortgage rates, interest rates being low and stable. Home prices are now more affordable. Inventory is high. This is something that's going to be debatable for us, but in the past, we've had a situation where the economy is still strong and there's low unemployment. Either way, for certain people in certain industries, it's number 4 and number 5 will hold true for them, and that gives them the advantage and makes it less competitive, which is one of the reasons that the seller's market has prices climb as high as they do, is you're going in and there's lots of people who have money and can get a loan, and it drives the prices up. And when things get a little hairier, it's a little less competitive and you're not competing with 10 or 11 people. You might be only competing with 1 or 2. And then this is really the script, right? Is you want to ask your client if, do you want to risk missing a house that's perfect for you because you're waiting for a sliver of savings that may or may not be there? So when you're able to meet all of their requirements, show them something in the price range with the statistics that meets all of their needs and wants, and they start to say, well, don't you think, well, if we wait, we'll find something cheaper? Don't you think if we wait, there'll be something better? This is really what you want to say. Look, we don't know if that's ever going to happen, and this is what you want, and it's a killer price, an awesome deal for you, and let's pull the trigger and go for it. And you don't want to, as we've talked about throughout this entire series, you don't want to have that conversation from a purely trust me or trust my opinion point of view. You want to pull some statistics from even 6, 9, 12 months ago and show them what that same house or like houses in that same area we're trading for, and show them the deal that they're getting.
I would
got to make sure that's there. Go ahead.
I would probably try something along the lines of, if they're buying, especially a first time, they're probably making a rent payment. If they're paying $2,500 a month and they want to wait 3 months to kind of expand their search, that's $7,500. So that means they need a $7,500 savings in price just to even make that make sense. So
that's really
let's stay focused on, because every time you pay rent, you're throwing money away.
There you go.
So I would kind of go along those lines, kind of put it back in their court a little bit.
Yeah, it's another way to create urgency.
Oh, it's Heather.
Hi, Heather.
Hi.
I'm here. Hi, guys.
Sorry I was late. Just to jump on what Juan said, I always use these key words with my buyers, and one of them is dollarizing. How much does it cost you to wait? So we dollarize that waiting period.
Yeah.
And really usually that helps them kind of figure it out. When you put a name on it, it makes it so much easier and makes it more impactful when you do that. So that's one of and I've taught Rason how to use that word too. We dollarize. There's going to be tons of issues that come up now and in the middle of escrow and maybe at the end. But if we dollarize those problems, we can get through them.
Really, really good. Awesome. Okay, so you want to stop and think. What tools do you use to communicate your knowledge of the economy and local market? We talked about that. And then where can you get the reference information that you need? MLS, various news resources, Curbed, Inman, and others. So this is really cool. You guys are already, most of you, if you've worked with Brandon and got your smart plans set up, you're dripping on your people, or a lot of you have a newsletter you've been sending people for years. This is going to be something that you're going to want to add to your repertoire, and it's to create a best buy list. So that's where you're going to set up alerts for yourself, and you're going to make sure that you get an email for all the new listings when they come on the market, and you're going to either I would say probably once a week or at least twice a month, compile a little list, and you're going to send that to your database of best buys. I would make sure that you guys do this both on the like residential and then even, kind of investment property front. I don't know that you're going to necessarily do like above 6 units, but I think if you wanted to include like duplexes and things like that on there, super duper smart. And you're going to send out that list, and then you're going to also use that as part of your scripts when you call people who you're working with. So you've got, you know, a list of buyers and you know what their criteria are. And so you get an email that something just came on the market and it fits their criteria and the condition is good and it's priced well. You're going to use that. You're going to call your people and you're going to say, hey, Heather, I wanted to talk to you because this house that's exactly what you want just hit the market. And I know that we're going to need to move fast because it's well located, well priced, and in excellent condition. I'm going to send it to you, and then I want you to call me and we can discuss it and set up a showing. And it's a way to get people kind of off the fence and create urgency. And then when you send this out to other people, there are going to be people who aren't necessarily needing to move or have a really strong reason to be motivated, but when they see the opportunity of it, they will call you, and then you'll have buyers that weren't necessarily in your buyer pool, but were in your database that will transact.
One that's not on here is a property that's not on the market, which is generally a draw for people. I know we have to be careful with the new MLS regulations, but you can describe the property without giving the address as to where it's located. And usually you're able to find out about these off-market properties just by knowing other agents. And a lot of the stuff that I say to buyers is that we do deals in the hallway. You know, we've got such a close-knit network of agents in our community that we're able to find properties that are not exposed to the general public.
Well, yes, 100%. I'm hesitant to drive that home just because you remember, Heather, when we were at that MLS summit, the fine for some of those things can be kind of steep.
Right. You can describe where the property is, but not give the address.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where, I mean, I think you can get creative and use it as a teaser to get people to call you. But I do want everybody to make sure that you all stay up to date on what those rules are. And Mike Berlin is obviously going to be sharing those with us as they roll out. I mean, it was like a mutiny that day we were at the MLS summit talking about this new system. I mean, people just went nuts. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out.
On, right?
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. So we'll see how that works out. But she's right. Typically, that is, especially in a down market, you know, a really great opportunity for people. You know, less competitive. The transactions typically move faster. But we just want to be careful and make sure we see how that shakes out. These are going to be the other things that you'll be able to, you know, set up alerts for and use to create motivation and create urgency with your buyers. So here are the things that you want to start to look at as you assess these properties when they come on the market and create your list. So you want to obviously look at time on the market, list price. We talked about, and we showed that chart, you know, determining what's in market and what's not. And part of looking at that is condition. And then, you know, you want to reflect back on the comps and see what the actual selling price is. And like we said, we want to do this pretty regularly and then create marketing based out of it that you're consistently sending to people so that, number one, they're clear about what's happening. And number two, they know that you're an expert. Why do they know that? Because you're telling them what's going on all the time. So you don't want to give out the list. Oh, hold on one second, guys. You want to offer access to the best buys. So it's kind of like what Heather was saying. You want to create a teaser. One second. I'm sorry. Okay. So you want to offer access. So you want to make sure that these guys can't get your list and then call another agent to write the offer. You want to make sure that you're giving them just enough information to get them to reach out to you. And then you want to make sure that you're using that list to match it with your buyer's needs so that you can get them in quickly, because those are the houses that will typically go first and go quickly. Does anybody have questions about that? making sure that you don't just give out the entire list, but that you offer access to the list. And, you know, maybe that's where you're going to get them to put in an email and or a phone number. We know the phone number has to be optional. Otherwise, people typically don't want to sign that. But you want to make sure that it's an access point for you to be able to communicate with that person in the future versus they have it and now they're going through someone else. So this is going to be one of the things that will start to be important for buyer's agents once the inventory gets really high, is you're going to have to help people sift through all of the opportunities, and you're going to want to make sure you're clear about what they need so that you can keep them on track. Because I talked about this a little bit towards the beginning of the call. People will just start to wander and get excited about this shiny thing over here and that allegedly great deal over there. And then you end up finding them way off track. And then as you get through the process and it's time to really pull the trigger and buy this thing, then they start to say, get cold feet, right? Well, I thought this was a really great deal, but now I'm really thinking about it, Juan, and I'm going to have like a double commute to work and it's so far from my kid's school and I don't like these schools. And you see what I'm saying? And they'll get excited at first because they think the price is so great. But as we move closer to actually getting the deal done, their real wants and needs will pop back up and you'll start to deal with their indecision. So you need to look at what the different motivations are, make sure that you're clear about that, and then you're going to need to ongoingly remind them of that as you sift through all of the available properties. You really never want to be talking to them about more than 5 or 6 at a time. And you want to have more than 1 or 2 so that, you know, because like we said, the best priced and ones in best condition are going to be the ones that people are going to compete for first. And so you don't want to have them only with one option and then they don't get that option and feel discouraged. So relocation, dissatisfaction, this house is too small, this house is too far, things like that. Life changes, new baby, kids out of the house, you know, second home. Wow, prices have fallen. We can, you know, get that mountain house we've always wanted, right? Home sold. So that means that they sold one home and now they need to buy a new one. And then lease ending, Juan gave that example, people who are renting and ready to buy, and it's like that natural kind of transition. And then obviously those who are going to invest. And then here's what you want to make sure that you're also going over for people: the advantages of home ownership. You know, the wealth building opportunity of building equity, you know, the tax benefits of being a homeowner, and then obviously the investment for one's future that gets created and built when you own a home. So you actually want to make sure that as you're talking to your buyers, you're dropping in or even doing a meeting on these specific things, because this is going to also end up being part of the leverage that you use as you create urgency when people start to find themselves on the fence or getting cold feet. You want to say, no. You got to remember, this is the game. This is what we're building, and this is what we're working towards, and this is the house. Let's do it. So you want to also make sure, you know, in a seller's market, we can just put people on MLS strips and let them sift through it. There's going to be so much inventory when the market turns that you don't want to do that. You really are going to, and this is going to take some work on our part, especially if you have a lot of buyers to work with, is you want to know what they need and want, and you want to either with them or before sending them the options, sift through all of the things that are showing up on the MLS strip, and then send them the things that are a match and know what the best buys are in the market so that you have, you know, data to support that. Here, this is what we should do, and this is why the price is really great, and you can help people through that process quickly. And then for buyers who are looking for a deal, you might see this on the investment side. You want to learn their definition of a deal. And then you want to communicate the consequences of some deals, meaning, you know, if you see something that's too good to be true, or if they're waiting for that bottom price, that what's also likely to be the situation at that bottom price is that some of the things they were needing to do to be able to buy that deal, that those opportunities aren't available when homes reach that level in price. So you want to make sure that you also, when you have somebody who's saying that that's their motivation, that this be part of that buyer's consultation. Okay, great. Well, tell me what you think a deal is, and let's look at the reality of where we're at. And then that's where your expertise and you being like the consultant is going to come in. So, you know, you're going to want to look at what questions are going to be most effective in determining a buyer's true needs and wants. We're still working on putting together that file folder for you guys. I don't know if you've ever tried to look for something on the back office of KW Connect, but you put in a search term and you get about 200 pages worth of material, and then you've got to look through it all and find the best, and that's what we're doing. So this is going to be something that will facilitate with all of you. But in the meantime, for some of you who are already working with buyers right now, you want to go through and make sure that as you go into that consultation, you've got a list of questions based on what we've talked about for the last, I don't know, 5 weeks, that will help you understand people's motivation, what they need, because needs will always trump wants, and that you have that down so that you can always kind of bring your client back to that through this process. And then you do to find houses that you know your customers will want to buy. And you want to make sure that whatever that is you're doing it, I would assert that it's being up to date on the market. And as those homes hit the MLS, that you are looking at them online. And for, especially as we're in shelter in place, for the ones that are allowing people in, like the vacant ones, that you're going in, you're making videos, you're, you know, making sure that you understand exactly what's going in your market for the well-priced, good condition homes. All right, we're gonna also, you know, need to facilitate decision-making. So you're gonna wanna, as you look at, right, you're gonna sit with a buyer and you're gonna lay out 5 or 6 homes that meet their criteria or come close. And then you wanna be able to have a conversation with regards to features versus benefits. And this is all gonna be driven by that initial interview where you found out what they needed and what they wanted. And so as you start to look at the homes, you're really going to kind of explain to them what the differences are between the homes and start to help them, you know, sift and then decide what really is going to work, and then you guys are going to go after those. And then you want to also make sure that if people start to say, well, these are really great, and while they do meet my criteria, maybe there's going to be something better. Maybe there's going to be something cheaper. I bet that if we wait another month, we're going to have more options. No, 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 no. That's where you want to have a conversation about the cost of waiting to buy, that you delay that tax benefit. Like Juan said, you guys are going to spend another $7,500 paying the landlord's mortgage. No, no, no. This is the house. Let's get this house, and we're going to spend that money on yours. And then you're going to get these benefits. This is where we're going to start building our equity. This is, you know, where you're going to say, if we end up doing this, there's a good chance that 3 months from now, all of these houses are gone. And then we're going to deal with all the like beat up crappy houses that are overpriced. And then we're going to have to see way more houses to get back to this one that actually works. And then you also want to let them know, listen, there's not a ton of ones that meet your criteria, have the right price, or in good condition. We found it. Let's go ahead and grab it. And the market could shift, and then the great buys will be gone, and you're going to be kicking yourself. So these are going to be the things you want to lead with as people start to kind of pump the brakes when you found the one or the ones.
Can I jump in for a second?
Please do.
I loved what you told us about the spring buyers. Maybe it was you or Tom, I can't remember, but the spring buyers are taking a step back. So when the summertime happens and the weather's awesome, people are going to be coming out. All those spring buyers are going to be on top of the summer buyers. That right there has helped me get 2 new buyers. That alone, just thinking about a stampede of people coming in trying to buy the same house that you're buying, like all the buyers, nobody wants to get into a bidding war. But
exactly.
that's the thing. It's like, if you're gonna fight, you might want me in the ring with you. That's what I told this lady.
Good.
So
That's
she was like,
perfect.
oh, okay.
That's
So
perfect.
that worked well. Thank
Yep. And that's where you want to also, I mean, that's really good what Heather said. And that's, you know, I can't think of a better way to create urgency, because especially for the people who are willing to do it now, that's where you can say, listen, if this is the house and you're able to do it now, let's do it. Because when everybody comes out of shelter in place and everything's back online, we are going to start to see, you know, that competition factor go up. I haven't seen Louis on these because he's really busy. And I know, if you guys don't know, he works with a lot of buyers, and he's busier than ever right now because he's got people that for the last 6 months, it was so competitive, they could never be at the top of the heap with their offers. And right now it's like a free for all. All these people who he'd written offer after offer and they never got accepted because somebody always beat them. It is so low competition. He even told me about a deal where they did the request for repairs and they said, okay, we just want this amount of money and we want you to fix the rest. And they just gave them the money for all of it and said, let's just close and be done. And it was something like $11,000.
That's what I was saying the other day. That's what's happening. It's not gloom and doom. It just thinned the herd a little bit. So the people that could buy still buying.
That's right. And for those of you that have people, what he's saying is exactly right, that are on the fence and can still buy though, right? That are unaffected, have the money, still working, not furloughed. You want to let them know, guys, this is the moment. This is the moment. These are these sellers, the ones that need to do it, and we're going to not have as much competition.
One of the things is that the sellers that are out now that are still willing to sell are the ones, it's kind of like during Christmas time, whoever's not putting a turkey or in the oven or wrapping gifts, it like those are the serious people that they really want to do it right now. My seller in Lemert, she's like, okay, well, I guess I have to fix all of these things. I said, no, we don't have to do that until we get a request for repair. She was ready to fix everything that I told her was wrong on the home inspection because she just so wants to close, you know? So this is a great time for buyers right now to step in and get what they want.
It is. It really is.
Yep, 100%. And then, you know, when people start to get nervous, like we said, the one thing that we don't want to do, and it sometimes becomes or starts to feel easy to do it this way, which is that you want to kind of like talk them into something. People will start to get nervous and think, oh, this is someone who's self-serving and trying to push me into something so they can get a deal done. You want to always use the data to support what you're saying. You want to say, okay, look, Anita, this is the deal. You're not overpaying here. In fact, you're having a massive savings as compared to 6 months ago. Or in fact, you're right on par with what the market is. And we actually got a really great concession from the seller because they need to get this done now, which 6 months ago, they weren't given a dime, right? And you want to, you know, use the CMA, you want to, you know, lean on your appraisal if you have that contingency when it comes in. And then you want to make sure that if you know, this I feel like is kind of aggressive for our market personally, but you can sometimes get sellers to give you an option period, or you can work with, you know, like a buyback guarantee where you can, you know, put an investor in the back position, right? Where it's like, look, if you guys decide that this isn't going to work, then, you know, I've got somebody else who's going to go ahead and take it. Okay, so incentives and concessions. One second. Sorry, guys. Okay, improvement allowances. So these are going to be some of the things that you can offer or request to help inspire or facilitate urgency with your buyers. Improvement allowances, pay early move out on their lease, pay the mortgage on the buyer's home for a period of time. closing costs. These are also things that you can ask for, like vendors, like your lender to support you with. Sometimes when the market shifts, they've got incredible incentives. And you can get that information and then pass that on to your people as a reason to, you know what, this is what we have right now for the next 30 days. Let's go ahead and pull the trigger and see and find something, because, you know, even though we might need to redo the bathrooms, with what you're going to save on this incentive, you're going to have the money to do it. And it meets all our other, it checks all of our other boxes, things like that. So you want to make sure that you're staying up to date on whatever those opportunities might look like. And those are things that you might even be able to put in the contract and ask for. And then here's how you want to close with your people when they're on the fence. So is this a house you want to buy? If you love this house, someone else will too. So we got to move. Good houses sell fast in any market. And this is a great house. I'm adding to it. These are just, you know, where you want to start to use your sales skills, right? The next person who looks at this house can make an offer. We should go ahead and do it now. I know you love it. It's the right price. Let's do it. How would you feel if someone else bought this house tomorrow and we were back at the drawing board, right? So these are all things that the conversations that you're going to want to use to close your buyers after you show them all the data and you guys are ready to make moves. So here's the bottom line, everybody. You need to be an expert on the local market and economy and educate your buyers. Oftentimes that is going to take the fear away from some of your people when you can show them the cold hard facts about what's actually going on, because mostly it's what they don't know that they're afraid of, less than what they know. And if you can educate them, many of your people will jump off that fence and get right into the ring. And then you want to discuss their fears. You know, you don't want to try to overcome them. You want to, you know, listen to them and then address them with data and market expertise. Go ahead and create a best buy list, show them the houses that meet their needs and wants, you know, dissuade them from seeing the ones that don't based on some crazy like assumption on price. Like, oh, but this one's so much cheaper. You got to remind me, yeah, no, but remember, we're trying to make sure that we maintain the commute. We don't have a crazy morning. That's too far. And this is a great house and still within a great price, right? And then you want to facilitate their decision to buy a house. So everybody, you want to make sure that you create an action plan and write down the steps that you're going to use to put into action to have this set of ideas, skills be alive in your business. Otherwise, this makes no difference. And I want to make sure that you guys are prepared before we get there, because kind of like with someone who is saying they want to wait for the bottom of the market, only knows after the market started to go back up. That's how we can see, oh crap, that was the bottom. It's kind of like that with the rest of this. You want to be able to, before you start to see that, okay, this is what's happening with all my buyers, have that market research ready. Already be starting to put together the best buys list, so that if somebody says, hey, you know what, I'm really looking for a deal, you're not scrambling to go find one. You've already set up those MLS strip campaigns. You're already getting emailed every time you see something new hit the market that's within a certain price range, right? And you can answer to those wants and needs like on the fly, because we knew they were coming and we prepared for them in advance. All right, let's see, ahas. Let's do that before we close. Who learned something new on this call that is going to make a difference for them and made this hour of your life worth it? Anybody? Hopefully this was useful, guys. Adrian, what's it on for you?
Ahas to achievements. An aha for me would be, sorry, I just came back. I was on a phone call, so I got distracted.
No worries.
Well, an aha for me would be using the data, really, because when you're talking to people and you're telling them right now is a great time to buy, I think everybody has some idea of where the market's headed, but how you said bringing the data with you to those meetings, I think when people can see it in front of their eyes, it really makes a difference. So that was a aha moment for me. I didn't think to bring it with me, but I think it's really helpful.
Awesome. Awesome. Yep, 100%. Who else? Let's have one more before we complete.
I'm not sure I had any aha moments, but I did, you know, it just reiterated something that you just got to stay in front of your clients and just kind of, you know, not tell them what they need to be doing, but just offer them a couple of reasonable options that are kind of, you know, they're data-based, but they still push the client in the direction that I want them to go. But I help them make their own decision.
Exactly. So. Exactly. Awesome. Awesome, you guys. Well, let's put this into practice. I want to acknowledge all of you for being on this call, and I will talk to each of you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Hey, Nicole, you know, you're doing a great job doing this, girl.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.